Representatives condemn interim government plot, urge DSS to arrest purveyors. And from the foreign scene, Finland becomes official NATO member.
Thank you very much for joining us tonight on the news. I am Oyewumi Ayinigbera. Ondo State government has called for collective efforts of residents to boost the education sector. Commissioner for Education, Science and Technology, Femi Agagu, while briefing pressmen in Akure, the Ondo State capital, on the launch of the State Education Endowment Fund, said 1,000 naira will be levied on all taxable citizens of the state on annual basis to support the state education sector. Omorion Lakongbiji reports that Mr. Akishola Akifenwa was named the chairman of the Board of Trustees for the Ondo State Education Endowment Fund.
Governor of Ondo State, Oluwarotimi Akeredolu, in 2022 assented to the Ondo State Education Endowment Fund Bill, which was passed same year by the State House of Assembly. The essence is to mobilize financial resources for rebuilding, revamping, general upgrading, and repositioning of the state's education sector. At a press briefing to launch the policy, Commissioner for Education, Science and Technology, Femi Agagu, said the sum of 1,000 naira is to be paid voluntarily by every taxable adult in the state on an annual basis as education endowment levy. According to him, Ondo State government is spending heavily on public schools, hence the need for individuals, groups, corporate and international organizations to collaborate to boost reforms in the sector.
States, special schools, are 4 of them, and Ondo State happens to be the only state that has as many as 4 special schools. Promotion of sporting activities among students in schools. Supporting adult literacy education program, training and retraining of teachers and managers of education, incentives and loans to teachers to attain additional qualifications, support for research programs beneficial to the state, etc.
Mr. Agagu stated further that instructional materials, improving the quality of education through capacity building, renovating dilapidated structures, as well as intervention funds for indigent students are also included in the educational budget. He encouraged citizens of the state to support the state government in improving the state's education standard.
We are going to embark on road showing in the next 1 week all over the whole place. We will encourage all the actors who have local government level and one jingles that will run on radio, television, and every means of broadcasting we will try to use.
Commissioner for Finance, Wale Akintenwa, in his contribution said the fund will further assist government in its efforts to provide safe and conducive environment for students and teachers.
All over the world, education is key, and so these funds is meant to further enhance whatever the state is able to do, and that, I believe, inform the kind of board that has been set up. These are proven people of very high integrity who will not only manage these funds but will also help to source for funds. So this is meant to be a plus to whatever government is doing.
Chairman, Board of Internal Revenue Service in Ondo State, Tolu Adegbe, promised a seamless platform for the transaction.
Today, we collect 2% Education Endowment Fund on all contracts issued in the state. So, what we are doing, or what government is trying to do now, is to expand that pool of funds.
About 1 million citizens are expected to pay this levy annually. Omorion Lakongbiji, Osrc News.
Ondo State House of Assembly says good governance will become a reality in Nigeria when transparency and accountability become the watchwords of public office holders. The House during an interface with some local government administrators on year 2020 to 2021 audited report of the state local government auditor general said it will not rest on its oars at ensuring that government's funds are accounted for. House of Assembly correspondent Omoshiliola Adesoye Ajayi has details.
Consequent upon the submission of Auditors General's report on audited queries for the year 2020-2021, the Public Accounts Committee of the Ondo State House of Assembly invited concerned local governments. While declaring the session open, the Speaker, Bamidele Oleyelogun, noted that the move is part of measures to ensure that public funds are effectively utilized for citizens' benefit and to pave way for the 10th Assembly to start on a clean note.
I know that there is spirit of hard work and cooperation, present, punctually, collective work in the interest of the state. We should continue to promote transparency, accountability, and good governance, which is one of the natural and hallmarks of the present administration of
Chairman of the committee, Mr. Festus Adefiroye, who commended the Auditor General for prompt submission of the report, also charged local government administrators to be accountable in discharging their duties. He also noted that the move is in line with the provision of the law.
In fulfilling this statutory obligation is to stage the list not defined to which funds or serve as vendetta to any party, or simply to ensure that public trust in the government financial dealings and businesses are guaranteed through well-embraced transparency, probity, and accountability in the system.
The Auditor General for Local Government, Mr. Francis Adaramola, while stressing the importance of prompt retirement of public funds by accounting officers, charged them to ensure proper record keeping.
The job must continue. The local government must ensure that they cooperate with audit. Query is question and answer. At times, some of these things, if you answer it rightly on the table of the resident auditor or the director, it may not even get to the tribunal at all. Until we do this, let us do the right thing from this end. If you do the right thing, we have little or no query to write. We are not happy. It is not our joy to be writing queries to you.
Some of the representatives of the local government and accounting officers hailed the Assembly's move, adding that it will aid transparency in government affairs. They equally stressed the need for those entrusted with public office to be transparent in handling government finances. Omoshiliola Adesoye Ajayi, Osrc News.
Meanwhile, the House of Representatives has condemned calls for an interim government in Nigeria after May 29, 2023. The lawmakers feared that such calls is capable of truncating the country's young democracy and causing anarchy across the country. This followed a motion of urgent national importance raised by a member, Uyim Idem, drawing attention of the Green Chamber to the statement issued by the Department of State Services DSS, warning of plots to install an interim government after the outcome of the presidential election. The House urged the security agencies to be on alert and warned aggrieved parties to await outcome of litigations before the courts. The Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, in Rivers State has requested the cooperation of all political parties seeking the inspection of election materials used in the February 25 and March 18, 2023 polls, saying it will discharge its constitutional and lawful duties without preference or bias. INEC Resident Electoral Commissioner REC in the state, Johnson Sikiem, said about 50 applicants were received for inspection of election materials. For days now, members of the People's Democratic Party, PDP, and the All Progressives Congress, APC, have clashed at the INEC office in the state over the inspection of election materials. However, the INEC commissioner in the state said although the application of certified true copies of documents have access for inspection of election materials as the legitimate entitlement of candidates and parties to election petitions. They are, however, governed by processes and procedures. The federal government has extended the deadline for cash withdrawal for security vote till April 15. The Nigerian Financial Intelligence Unit, NFIU, granted extension to governors after intense negotiations. The April 15 extension is expected to be ratified at a special meeting convened by the NFIU with the Nigeria Governors Forum, NGF, and others virtually today. The Naira redesign and controversies that followed it will also be discussed at the meeting. The NFIU in January gave a March 1 deadline for the end of cash withdrawals from all public accounts. The Defense Headquarters has called for calm over virus social media video clips of the presence of some United Nations peacekeeping fighting vehicles and equipment sighted recently in Benin, Edo State. According to the Defense Headquarters, in a statement by the Acting Director of Defense Information, Brigadier General Tikur Guzai, the country is contributing troops to various United Nations peacekeeping operations, of which the most recent is the United Nations Interim Security Force for Abyei, UNISFA, Southern Sudan. It stated that the UN doesn't have its own troops, but has entered into an agreement with troops contributing countries to provide their personnel and equipment for operations in its various missions. The statement said the military fighting vehicles and equipment painted in UN color as cited are being moved from the war report for movement to the mission area in southern Sudan to marry up with Nigerian troops who were inducted into UNISFA mission last month, and assured Nigerians that the nation is not under any threat that will warrant the deployment of United Nations troops. You're still watching Osrc News at 7. After the break, we'll bring you more stories. Please stay with us. Glad to have you rejoin us. You can watch us live on our website www.osrc.ng or follow us on our Facebook OSRC TV, and on YouTube you can subscribe to our channel OSRC TV Ondo. Building and meteorological experts have tasked homeowners and tenants to prioritize maintenance of their structures in order to minimize the impacts of rainstorm. The experts who spoke separately with Osrc also advanced the need to plant trees that serve as windbreakers. Saeed Aribisala has more on the measures to prevent and mitigate the impact of downpour on buildings.
The 2023 seasonal rainfall prediction released by the Nigerian Meteorological Agency had warned Nigerians to prepare for earlier than normal onset of rainfall in most parts of the country. The prediction holds that the forecast would be a bit normal compared to 2022, but with pockets of extreme weather events in some states. In Ondo State, accompanying storms with recent rainfalls in 2023 have resulted in the destruction of properties. Roofs of houses blown off have rendered occupants homeless and downcast on what could be done to stem the impact. The head of Department of Building, Federal University of Technology, Akure, Dr. Oluleye Akani, said according to the requisite standard, maintenance of structures must be prioritized.
There are some design in front of a house that architects do design them as windbreakers. You know, they are not pillar that carries load, and sometimes when you see them in front of house, it looks as if it is just to beautify, you know, just to add to the aesthetic of that building. Many times it is not just to add aesthetic value to that building. Sometimes pillars like that, they are flat pillars. They are not load carrying member, and sometimes act as windbreakers.
Dr. Akani, a former chairman of Nigerian Institute of Building in Ondo State, further recommends patronage of quality building materials.
The issue of substandard material could also play part. And and another thing again, show the job. That was why in the past we've had calls to call on to people when you want to give out your job to be done. Please get experts, get people who knows the nitty-gritty of construction. Let them do something for you, because there could be substandard material, but the way and the manner those materials are even put together will seriously play some part.
Climate change expert Mr. Oluwo Parija Olorunwa advocates planting of trees to serve as windbreakers to reduce the effect of rainstorm.
This rainstorm occurs as a result. It's one of the aftermath effect of climate change. So as it is now, there is nothing we can do to stop it. The only thing we can do is just to mitigate. Part of the measure that we can put in place, or steps that we can adopt in mitigating the effect, maybe in the subsequent years. Number one, we need to plan our sites very well, our building sites. So, because when you look around, you will see that spaces that ought to have been allotted for maybe planting of trees or some other things. So they normally use everything up.
He noted that the creation of a green corridor in identified wind paths will minimize impact.
Those corridors need to be desecrated. That is, they need to be set aside purposely to reforest those zones. That is, to plant trees along that zones, which to form what we call green corridors. So that when the wind is coming from the north, like that, coming down to Akure, it will reduce the velocity or the intensity.
While climate issue is a global phenomenon, reducing human activities that worsen situation around the environment is a task for everyone. Sahid Aribisala, Osrc News.
President of the Nigerian Union of Journalists, NUJ, Christopher Izigozo, says the newly inaugurated National Media Complaints Commission, NMCC, will build a stronger media profession that would work for Nigerian people. According to him, the Ombudsman is a stakeholder's own way of responding to the persistent effort by the National Assembly to come up with some forms of regulation for the media industry. Izigozo said what has been done is a core regulation because it is not just the media professionals that are on the board, but the Nigerian Bar Association, NBA, civil society organizations, CSOs, and the chairman, House of Representatives Committee on Information. The NUJ boss said this will bring confidence and trust to the media while also engendering a higher level of professionalism. President Muhammadu Buhari has named the newly commissioned National Counter-Terrorism Center after the Jordan King, King Abdullah bin Al Hussein. Both leaders, during a phone conversation, expressed satisfaction at the deepening of the Nigeria-Jordan strategic partnership in matters of security and other global issues. During the phone conversation, President Buhari collaborated and shared Nigeria's experiences with Jordan in tackling terrorism. A statement by presidential spokesman Garba Shehu said King Abdullah also indicated his wish to visit Nigeria before President Buhari leaves office. And now to the foreign scene. Finland's flag has been raised at NATO's headquarters in Brussels after the country became the 31st member of the Security Alliance. The length of Russia's border with NATO member state has now doubled as a result. Finland formally applied to join NATO with Sweden last May because of Russia's war in Ukraine.
1949, the Washington Treaty was signed to create a shield against aggression and the fear of aggression. For almost 75 years, this great alliance has shielded our nations, and it continues to do so today. But war has returned to Europe, and Finland has decided to join NATO and be part of the world's most successful alliance. This has been the fastest accession process in NATO's modern history. Finland and Sweden applied for membership last May. In June, at our summit in Madrid, every ally invited them to join. And today, less than a year later, we welcome Finland as a full member of our alliance. This sends a clear message that every nation has the right to choose its own path, that NATO's door remains open and no one can close it with force or coercion.
Finland has today become the 31st member of NATO. The era of military non-alignment in our history has come to an end. A new era begins. Each country maximizes its own security. So does Finland. NATO membership strengthens our international position and room for maneuver. As a partner, we have already long actively participated in NATO activities. As an ally, Finland will contribute to NATO's collective deterrence and defense. Membership of the alliance provides security for Finland. Finland, on the other hand, provides security for the alliance. Last year, Finland applied to join NATO together with Sweden. As I have stressed, Finland's membership is not complete without that of Sweden. Our persistent efforts for a rapid Swedish membership will continue. I look forward to seeing Sweden join us as the 32nd member at the Vilnius summit in July.
News just reaching us now says the Osrc News and Current Affairs program, The Round Table, will come up tomorrow, 5th of April 2023. The program will come up by 3 p.m. The head of service, Kayode Ogundele, will be the guest, and he will focus on issues including the civil service reform, promotion of workers, capacity building, pension and gratuities, among other issues. Russia takes the rotating presidency of the United Nations Security Council this April as President Vladimir Putin faced an arrest warrant from the International Court for War Crimes in Ukraine. Oduayo Soya reports.
Vasilino Benzil, Russia's ambassador to the United Nations on the first working day of his country's presidency of the UN Security Council. Since 1946, the presidency has rotated among the 15 members. April is Russia's turn, but the Council is a body in the international system that governs global peace and security, and there has been uproar, particularly in Western countries, that Russia, which invaded its neighbor and whose president faces an arrest warrant from the International Criminal Court, now holds the prominent role.
We expect that they will behave professionally, but we also expect that they will use their seat to spread disinformation and to promote their own agenda as it relates to Ukraine.
This was a Russian ambassador's response.
Some countries are pretending they can decide at their own will who they want or do not want to be in the chair of the presidency of the Security Council. As long as the current world order with the UN and the Security Council stands, there will be no change in the rules of procedure.
Those rules, though, do give the president the option to recuse themselves during the discussion of items they are directly involved in and to temporarily hand the country in alphabetical order.
So if the issue of Ukraine comes up this month, there's the provision for you then to hand the presidency for that subject over to Switzerland.
No. No.
Why not?
If you put the question this way, then I think a few other countries that are on the Security Council should also withdraw from that discussion.
The program that Russia has prepared for the Security Council this month is relatively light, but the controversy is likely to grow towards the end of the month when the Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov comes to New York to chair the council. Odunayo Sawyer, Osrc News.
Like we said earlier, the Osrc News and Current Affairs program, the roundtable, will come up tomorrow, 5th of April 2023. The program will come up by 3 p.m. and the head of service, Kayode Ogundili, will be the guest, and he will focus on issues including the civil service reform, promotion of workers, capacity building, pension and gratuities, among other issues. And now in sport, the Confederation of African Football (CAF) has inspected facilities in Benin Republic for the 2025 African Cup of Nations. Benin Republic and Nigeria have put forward a joint bid to co-host the perennial competition. The CAF team visited the Charles de Gaulle Stadium in Port Novo and General Matthew Kereko Stadium, Cotonou. The team also visited some stadia in Nigeria over the weekend. Guinea was initially scheduled to host the competition but was stripped of the rights after failing to put up facilities in place. CAF is expected to name a new host for 2025 AFCON later this year. And still in sports, the World Football Governing Body FIFA has withdrawn the 2023 Under-17 World Cup from Peru, given the inability to host the country to fulfill its commitments to completing the infrastructure required. FIFA said the 24 teams competition will still be staged on the planned date, November 10 to December 2nd, and it will now designate a new host in due course. The perennial competition was due to be held in Peru in 2021, but was cancelled COVID pandemic. Last week, FIFA withdrew the Under-20 World Cup scheduled for May 20 to June 11 from Indonesia because the governors of the two countries' provinces wanted to ban Israel, which had qualified for the first time. And just before we go, another look at the major stories. We told you that the Ondo State government has launched the Education Endowment Levy at a press briefing in Akure, the Ondo State capital. The Commissioner for Education, Science and Technology, Femi Agagu, said 1,000 naira will be levied on all taxable citizens of the state on annual basis to support the state's education sector. The House of Assembly in Ondo State has restated its dedication to ensuring accountability in government business. Members of the House of Representatives have condemned in strong terms the interim government plot and has urged the DSS to arrest all alleged purveyors. And from the foreign scene, Finland has become the 31st member of military alliance NATO. And to remind you that at 3 p.m. tomorrow, we'll be having a roundtable on this dial, Osrc television. Thank you very much for watching. Good evening.